Well, good day, everybody, and welcome to another sessions of Education for a Better World. Today, I have a wonderful guest, my dear friend and colleague, Dr. Niesha Douglas, has joining us, and you're gonna love learning about her and hearing her perspective on education. Uh, Dr. Douglas, welcome to Education for a Better World.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Yeah. So you want me to, yeah, I'll go ahead and get started.
Well,
I'm so
why don't you
anxious.
go ahead and start and tell us about you, please.
Sure. So my name is Dr. Niesha Douglas. I was born in Greensboro, North Carolina, in the United States, of course. Grew up in a small town. At the time, I think we were, well, small to me, maybe 250,000 people in our city. And it was growing up, it kind of looking back on it, I had a good time. It's a good time in the 80s where you know, education still was kind of like up to the teacher as far as, learning, them being creative and helping us learn in different ways. And such an awesome time where, we didn't have, went to the cafeteria and they're actually cooking the food instead of warming the food up nowadays. So it was a great time. I graduated from North Carolina Central University, which is in Durham, North Carolina. It's a historically Black college and university. My major was physical education with a concentration of athletic training. So at first I wanted to be an athletic trainer. And then when I did my internship, I figured out that's probably not what I wanted to do. I was always gone, traveling with teams and just never had any time for myself, and the money wasn't that great. So I decided to get my master's degree in sports management instead, because I had an affinity for creating sports programs and camps, summer camps for youth and kids. I like being around, kids. I learned so much. You learn so much from children. And at that moment in time, it was fun for me to be around kids. And so I started off with that. And then eventually I did my internship with the Women's Sports Foundation in Atlanta, Georgia. At the time, the president was Billie Jean King. If you're not familiar with Billie Jean King, she is like the pioneer in women's tennis. And so I met her. I was starstruck because I was like, wow, we read about you in history books, right? It's always fun to see people in person that you read about, right? Because it almost seems like they're invincible, like they're not real, but she was real and very nice. And so from there, my job in the internship in Atlanta, where I would go to different YMCAs and different organizations, and I would teach young girls about the importance of eating healthy and being active. And I thought that was like the greatest thing. It was so fun. My internship was coming to an end, and they didn't have a position open for me for the Women's Sports Foundation. So I decided to maybe I should teach. And I applied for a job back in my near my hometown in Winston-Salem. And I thought at the time, I was like, well, I can be a professor, I have my master's degree, right? But they were looking for somebody full-time tenure track, and you had to have, of course, your PhD. But they were nice enough to welcome me and teach me the ropes, and I was able to get an adjunct position, and which is unheard of nowadays, where you just kind of walk in. And I was having a conversation with the department chair, and they were like, well, we can use you. And I was like, great. So so I was working for them for about 4 years until they were session head, and they started cutting the state of North Carolina started cutting the budget, and I was one of the first people to go. So from there, it was recommended that I go back and get my doctorate degree. And so I went to Charlotte, UNC Charlotte in North Carolina, and pursued my doctoral degree in education. And at the time, I wanted to learn more about how to teach. and like the theories behind it, because some people just go into the teaching field with no experience, and I always want to be prepared, because I'm one of those people, I just want to know what I'm doing and not really be thrown into a situation where I don't have any support or any resources to back up what I'm saying, and the theory behind why I do what I do and how to create a syllabus. And so I did that, and I graduated 2014, and from there it's kind of been a whirlwind. Like I taught in college, and I've taught in community colleges, and just I just got to the point where toward 2022, when COVID hit, it almost kind of felt like it was a chore. Teaching was not fun anymore for me, even though I still continue to do it. But now I'm just kind of like opening my options where I can use my creativity and the learning that I received in college to pursue other fields, and maybe just kind of pursue more of my creativity. So it's kind of what it is.
Wonderful, wonderful. One of the things that is important, and thank you for sharing that with us. That's definitely a very impressive journey that you have had. Now, I'm sure what you have accomplished. You talked about your experience in Atlanta, meeting Miss Judy
Billie Jean
King, and in reality, when you think about most successful people, they have had number of individuals that have made a positive impact in their life, and in most cases, number of those individuals are teachers, right? Now, you have had those in your life, I'm sure, and then you pursuing your doctorate in how to be an effective teacher, learning about uh, curriculum design and how to deliver. Maybe you can share with us some of your insight. What is it that the teachers can and should do in order to be more effective in the classroom?
My biggest thing is that you got to have a variety of tools that you can use to get people to learn, because as we all know, everybody learns differently. Sometimes we are visual learners, some people are auditory learners, some people are both. And so what I found is that usually, in the classroom, that's only one way of learning that the teacher utilizes, and for me, if you're going to be a teacher or if you're going to be a professor, there are multiple ways that you can get students to learn. And at the end of the day, you want to make learning fun and not so much of a chore for them. You don't want to make it boring, because they lose interest really quick, especially this generation of students. They lose interest really, really quick. And so you have to find creative ways to get their attention and keep them engaged. You got to make the material relevant. And so what that does for you is that you have to continue to learn. You can't just say, oh, I know every single thing about this particular subject, because things are changing every single day. In our field in sports management, things are changing. I mean, with COVID, they moved to having games, no audience for the games. And so what does that do for sports managers? When you don't have an audience, you don't have ticket sales, you don't have money's not generated as consistent as it was pre-COVID. So you just have to find multiple ways to teach students the content. And also, again, you got to continue to learn yourself. I think a lot of times we get complacent, especially in education. We get so overwhelmed with the amount of work that we do outside of the classroom that we don't continue to personally develop ourselves. And that's one of the big things that I see that's a problem in our field.
Thank you very much for sharing that. And I agree, because one, to be a great teacher, you always have to be a student, and improving oneself is a mark of a professional. So, you talked about internship, and I know that kind of had a big impact in your finding what your passion was, and getting you to where you are today. But what do you think about internship for others? And we have a lot of people, administrators, individuals that are responsible for their organization. What is the role of an internship, and how could internship really assist both the students as well as institutions?
The point of the internship is to use the knowledge that you gained in the classroom and apply it to real life situations. That's one of the important aspects of what the internship is about. Why internship is important? It's important because how do you know if you've learned if you don't apply it to real life situations, or you don't apply it to experiences? With the internship, not only do you apply what you've learned, but you also learn, it's like on the job training. You don't learn fully what your responsibilities are on the job until you're actually in that particular position. And so what I find is that sometimes students do not want to take advantage of internships unless they're getting paid. And so there's way more value in an internship, whether or not you're getting paid. I understand there are some situations where you have to have a job, you have to generate income some way. However, if you don't have to generate income, my thing is internships are the gateway or the first step to getting that dream job that you want, or getting that position or that role that you desire. You learn so much on the internship. There's some things that you can't learn in the classroom. I mean, there's only there are authors that write books, and yeah, you can learn from their perspective, but you don't understand how everything works until you're actually in that position and you're actually doing the work. There's some things that we can't teach in the classroom. Yeah, we can teach you how to get your resume together, and we can teach you how to put a document together, but there's some things that we can't teach you that's more hands-on that you need to learn from a workplace or organization.
No, very well. And as you mentioned, one of your internship actually showed you that, you were doing something that you were qualified for, but it wasn't making you happy.
Right.
Then you made an adjustment. So absolutely, I couldn't agree more with the value of internship for individuals. And again, from an institutional viewpoint, as I have been involved with and I have talked to other people, is a tremendous value, because the way institutions can close the gap between what our graduates are prepared for and what is the expectation of the marketplace is by having a close relationship between industries and educational institution, and internship makes that possible. It brings us to work together much closer. So thank you very much for that.
You're welcome.
Now, one of the other things that goes along with the internship is mentorship, right? So if you don't mind, maybe you can talk to us about, your perspective on mentorship, and have you used mentorship in life? Have you had mentors? And do you mentor other individuals now in your position? If you don't mind, share with us your perspective on it.
So the term mentor is actually from like the Greek philosophy, or the Greek philosopher, the Odyssey, Homer, actually specifically, in which they would go out to war, but they were making sure that the children had somebody there just in case the father didn't come back, right? So that's where the term mentor comes from. I definitely had mentors. Like I said, when I transitioned out of my internship to that first teaching job, my program coordinator was my mentor. He showed me a lot of things that I couldn't have learned in the classroom. He made sure that I was on the right path. He answered all my questions. But it wasn't like, well, this is what you need to do. It was more so, these are the challenges that you're going to face, and I would suggest you you address them this way or solve them this way, but it's ultimately up to you. So it was more like our mentorship, like a partnership. I never felt like, he never gave me the idea that he knew every single thing. It was almost like, well, this is my experience, and I know that, you're younger than me, and you can teach me some things about, what's going on now, what's trending now in our field. And so that was very important to me, because I still talk to my mentor today. I'm always checking in with him, making sure that, he's okay, number one, and, what he thinks about, certain things, as far as, where education is going or what's going on at his school. So mentorship is definitely important, because it's almost like you're on a boat and you don't know where to go, but you need like a compass or a map, right? And so the mentorship would be the map and the compass. It's a guide to show you where, different locations that you can go, and it's up to you to where you want to land or where you want to dock your boat, for lack of a better term. But I was part of a research study that actually ended this year, and it was about mentorship at the doctoral level for STEM fields for students of color. And so what we found was that, at certain institutions, specifically PWIs, some of the faculty members would simultaneously think that just because that's, you're their advisor, then they're also your mentor. But we had to make the distinction that there are two different terms and they mean two different things. And so, when we would talk to some of the students, they figured out that they didn't have a mentor, but they really needed a mentor, because, as you know, going through a PhD program, especially, in STEM in certain institutions, is very stressful, very hard. And you need that support. You need somebody to help you navigate, the 4-year or 5 or 6 year process of going through a doctoral program. And it's kind of hard because you go through such an influx of emotions. Should I be here? Am I doing the right thing? Am I good enough? There were some of the questions that some of the students would ask themselves. And so, having a mentor would help them move through that process a lot easier. Because it's very hard to go into a situation that you're unfamiliar with. You may be the only person in your family that's ever gotten to that position. So you can't lean on your family and get guidance from your family because they don't know either. And so it's very important to have somebody there that's actually been in the field or is currently working in the field that can help you navigate the process. There's some things that you wouldn't know unless you ask your mentor or they, volunteer the information, as far as like publishing, the importance of publishing papers, the importance of making networking, the importance of going to conferences. Otherwise, it'll make it a lot harder for you once you graduate to get into the field or get to that position that you want. Because networking is super important, and mentorship is really about networking as well.
Thank you very much. I couldn't have agreed more, because I think both mentorship in all stage of life is a wonderful thing to have, because it's just like benchmarking. Is kind of, as you said, being able to kind of see how you can grow,
right,
and grow by the guidance of somebody that already has gone through those stages and kind of can brighten the way for you. And at the same time, I think it's very important that people are able to kind of create that guidance and that light for people that need that. And if they come to them, they are making themselves available and commit to help others, because
right,
it doesn't have to be that you're a teacher or you're an administrator, but as an individual, I think we need to be mentoring and helping other people benchmark their life through, the stage that they're in. So
definitely.
I appreciate that feedback. Now, let me ask you about, you know, I usually ask people about professional mindset. Now, professional mindset is one of those things that everybody has their own definition for it.
Mhm.
So, my first question to you is, what's your definition of professional mindset? And follow up to that is, how does that has helped you throughout your life to this point?
So a professional mindset for me is being open to continuing to learn, and also accepting, constructive criticism and constructive feedback. Because how are you able to grow if you don't get some type of feedback from the people who are already where you want to be, right? So, and also being professional is, separating your emotions from your profession. You know, business is business, right? And so, that's why a lot of people separate business and personal. You got to come with the mindset of, I'm doing a job, and my purpose for being here is to do the job effectively, to make the company money, or to make the organization money, or to make the organization look good, right? And so having a professional mindset definitely gets you to the next level where you want to go, and you always have to keep that with you no matter where you are in life. Especially, I would say being like a mom. There are some things that that your child is not perfect, right? You know that there are some things that they could use some improvements on. And it's not saying that you're a bad parent, it's just that they're kids and they're growing and they experience different things, and a lot of times they're not truthful. They just don't want to get in trouble. So having a professional mindset is understanding that there are some growing pains, and there are some times where things are going to be questioned, and how you handle it and how you respond to that is important for you to move forward and for you to grow. What was the other question?
Well, and then how it has affected you throughout your life, and how important it has been for you to get to where you are.
Oh, it's been vital, actually, because I've been in spaces that I wasn't necessarily comfortable with. And when I say comfortable, meaning I was intimidated. You go into certain professional settings, and the people that are in that room might be millionaires or billionaires, or have done so many different things, and you're just sitting there like, you might be underemployed or unemployed, and you just kind of questioning, like, should I be in this space? Should I be in this room? And the answer is yes. I had to learn that I was worthy, or I was smart enough, or it was my destiny to be in certain spaces, whether or not I couldn't compare myself to the other people in the room. And so having a professional mindset is understanding that you belong there, regardless of your background, regardless of your status. You belong in that room. And so I had to come to terms with, because like I said, I felt, a lot of times I felt very intimidated, like I didn't belong. But having a professional mindset is understanding that you're where you are at the right time, where you're supposed to be, regardless of who's there. And so that has helped me throughout life, because, again, like, I've come into these different spaces, and before it was hard for me to interact. And I'm such an outgoing person that, it's not in my personality, it's not in my nature not to speak to anybody or to be an introvert, because I'm definitely an extrovert. So having a professional mindset just gave me the confidence to sit in these rooms and knowing that I belong there, because just because that person may make more money than you, or may be in a position that you wanted to be in, doesn't mean that they know more than you. And I had to figure that out. It was something that I had to figure out, because you get to the point where you apply for these positions and you're like, wait, I know I'm qualified for it, but I didn't even get an interview, or I got the interview and I still don't understand how I didn't get the position. But, I just, you just can't take it personal. Can't take it personal. You just got to move on.
Now, I'm one of, a good friend was the other day, we were talking about the same thing, and, came up that it really, there is no need to look up to anybody and look down at anybody, because when you look up to somebody, you really miss who they are.
Mm-hmm.
And when you look down at somebody, again, miss who they are. And I think a big part of professional mindset is really looking at each individual and each situation as it is, and enjoy it, because you wouldn't be there if you weren't belong for that time and that place to take place. So I was going to ask you the next question about you being in education and the experience that you have. Where do you find the state of education in the US today? If you were going to kind of describe it for us, the audience that is watching this, and we have audience around the globe. So in your assessment, how are we doing? Where are we?
There's a shift that's occurring in the US when it comes to education. Now, I can only give you my experience and just kind of compare it to some of the places that I've been. I did a study abroad trip in China, and we went to some of the elementary schools and some of the K through 12 schools there, and just kind of comparing, what they do versus what we do here in the United States. And unfortunately, even though we are a superpower in the world, we do not value education like a lot of the other countries value education. And I can't really tell you the reason why, because I don't know, but constantly money is being taken away from education. And so that puts a lot of pressure on administrators and teachers to pretty much make a way out of nothing. Like continue to do a good job under, restrictive circumstances, with the standardized testing that our students go through, and just a lot of pressure that the faculty and the teachers are under to try to get these kids to move them along to the next level. And unfortunately, I don't see, unless we start paying more attention to education, putting more funding behind education, hiring more teachers, and appreciating teachers. Because I just looked at a poll the other day that's a little over 7,000 teachers in North Carolina quit K through 12. And so all that does is put our students at a disadvantage to other states, but not just other states, but other students across the world. And so what does that say about our education when we have that many teachers quit in a year? And we were already understaffed. And so do I believe that education can make a comeback? For sure. But that comes from the top. That comes from administration. That comes from our government. That comes from the local government and our federal government, and which they need to put more of an emphasis on education and stop just putting Band-Aids on stuff like that. Our schools need, the infrastructure is falling apart. It's ridiculous in 2022 that there's still some schools that don't have air conditioning. And so, I don't see a bright future for education unless we as Americans in our United States, our government puts more of an emphasis on education and puts more money towards the budget for education. Because ever since, I would say probably early 2000s, they've been slowly but surely taking money away. And that doesn't do anything for our students, because they can't learn in that type of environment when you have a teacher that's underpaid and overworked. And then they have to spend an entire school day inside a classroom. They rarely go outside. When they do, it's only for like 30 minutes, depending on the district. And, it's hard to come up with different ways of learning when you're under that amount of pressure. Learning is supposed to be fun, like I said before. Learning is something that, that's something that's like absolute, like we're going to constantly learn, right? But it's under certain circumstances, it's harder for us to learn. And for kids, our especially public school, for kids nowadays, it's really challenging for them to sit in the classroom and learn. And I was thinking, I was talking to my daughter. My daughter is actually, she just graduated 8th grade. It was a private school, but now she's going into public school. And so I'm trying to get her prepared. Like, okay, well, there's a lot of things that it's a lot of changes that are going to be made, once you get to public schools, a lot of things that you're going to be exposed to. And just me having to have that conversation with her was a bit sad, because every student deserves a quality education. They do. Every student deserves. It doesn't matter if you're private and you're paying for it, or regardless, we're paying for it, whether it's coming out of our taxes or coming out of our pocket, right? So every student deserves a quality education. They deserve exposure to certain curriculum. They deserve experiential learning, like field trips and things that they can't learn in the classroom, or things that they can apply. So I just don't see it improving unless that change takes place in our government.
You're absolutely right. The name of these podcasts is Education for a Better World. I truly believe education is a foundation of creating a better society. Mm-hmm. And as we go and look at the world, and every day we have new knowledge, being created and accelerating, the amount of knowledge that is being developed and created around the world, requires us to, spend more energy and more resources on teaching our kids on how to master those knowledge and be able to take advantage of it. And I agree with you wholeheartedly that, you look at, regardless of what, party affiliations anybody has, they all agree about how we need to increase our defense budget. Mm-hmm. And what, I don't understand is the fact that what is it that we don't see on the value of education, value of what it is, the future of us. And if we don't have that foundation of education, how can we maintain the quality of life and standards of life that we have enjoyed and we've been, bragging about?
Right.
Only way we can do that is by making sure that education is in the center of our policies, and it continues to receive the supports of all individuals, not only politicians, but citizens and educators. I totally believe, and I appreciate you bringing that up. Now, that leads us to a natural questions. What are some of the challenges that I think we talked about money as being one, but maybe a couple of other challenges that you see in education. And on the other side of it, we will look at some of the opportunities that exist in education that we can, talk about and see what we should be doing to take advantage of these opportunities as well. Well, let's start off. We started with challenges. Money is being one, and is a huge one. What are maybe a couple of other challenges that you see in education?
Other challenges would be the material that a lot of these students are learning. For example, if we were to talk about history, and generally in the United States, there are a couple of history courses that we have to take, that students have to take. There's U.S. history, world history, and civics, economics. And a lot of these courses are specific to one group of people. Okay. And what I mean by that is that I was having this conversation the other day to one of my friends. I said, I remember I was in world history, and I would constantly ask the teacher, why are we only learning about Europe and Europe and Asia, and we're not learning about South America or Africa? And so, she would get upset. Well, this is what we're learning, and this is what it is. I said, but how we are supposed to be global learners if we're only learning about one set of history from one perspective, you know? And if we are going to hold ourselves accountable for being diverse, and the United States is a melting pot, you know, we have so many different cultures here, then why are we only learning about one culture? You know, that's not fair. You know, our classrooms are diverse. You know, we have immigrants coming from everywhere in the United States. I mean, everywhere in the world. So why can't we, you know, our books are the reading material. We need to update it. You know, we need to be responsible in highlighting, you know, different groups that get different cultures that reside here in the United States, and plus just in general. That's one thing, you know, just can the books that we use in the classroom need to be accurate, because there's a lot of misinformation that's being fed to our students, and they don't know that until either their parent may say something to them about it if they're paying attention, or until they get out into the real world. You know, this is not accurate, you know. Another challenge would be, you know, everything goes back to money, but also I just think that we need to make sure that we include different types of learning, and learning doesn't always have to be in the classroom. You know, you don't always have to sit and listen to a teacher all day, every day. Learning takes place everywhere. You know, I believe that our students, and I understand why they don't do it, but I believe our students need to be outside the classroom more and just be able to explore their imagination, be able to explore their creative side, and just understand how, you know, things work outside of, you know, sitting in the classroom. Be able to see, you know, oh, how do I grow? Or if I'm learning about biology, how photosynthesis works, we need to be outside showing the different steps of photosynthesis when it comes to a plant, you know, or the development or the growth of a plant. So, and not all schools do that, but I'm just giving that as an example. Like, I think we need to step more outside of the classroom than just sitting there and just giving them a book and you just have to read the book, right? Because we're living in a world where people go on Instagram and YouTube and they learn a skill, right? So why not reinforce that when you're in the classroom? Just go outside and do something else. Like, it's boring to sit down and listen to a teacher all day, every day. I mean, honestly, you know, I was in school, there's certain subjects I was just like, ugh. But then there were certain subjects like chemistry, and my chemistry teacher was a great chemistry teacher. I had a great biology teacher. You know, they made us go outside and pull leaves off trees and identify the trees. And so that's how I learned the difference between a magnolia tree and a maple tree. You know, I can spot it out. Like, I'm going down the highway and I can say, oh, I remember that's a dogwood. That's a maple tree. You know, I can identify some of the plants and some of the animals that are indigenous to our area where I'm at here in North Carolina. So that's learning, right? And I understand why they don't do that a lot anymore, because safety, maybe. I don't know, but well, I think
to make it more effective, really what you're saying, it is the foundation, you know, because a lot of time when people don't know the relevance of what they're learning, at best they memorize so they can pass the test. Right. But if they can see the actual applications of it in real world, like you're talking about biology or chemistry or physics, even mathematics, all of these will give a different value and dimension to what is being learned, and it creates more excitement for the individuals, and I think it will last with individuals, you know, to go on and build on it.
Right.
Otherwise, people memorize it to pass a test and then they forget about it.
Right. Yeah.
That is wonderful. Thank you for sharing that. And, you know, again, if I may mention, you know, you talked about the history and how it is. That is a really valid point, because the more we know about the world, both in what we read in the book and the closest it is to the reality, as well as by traveling, by learning from other culture, I think it will make us to be better. I think a lot of misunderstanding happens because we don't know about different culture and different people. So those
Right.
are really good uh, challenges that you highlighted. I appreciate that. Now let's talk about maybe 2 or 3 different opportunities that you see that exist in education today that didn't exist, maybe a few years ago. And how can we, as educators, be able to take advantage of it?
Well, one opportunity that I see is, you know, when technology, like between 2000 and I would say 2005 and 2010, technology just threw us for a loop, right? You know, all of a sudden everything was online, and a lot of us was not prepared for that. But I think there's an opportunity there because though our students, that's all they do is spend a lot of time online. I think we can use that to our advantage. We can find ways to implement technology in the classroom where it's not so distracting, and you're what my professor used to say, I'm gonna trick you into learning, right? Just be aware that, okay, just because it's on the internet doesn't mean it's true, right? So these are the websites that you can go to get accurate information. And this is what we're learning in the classroom. So I think there's an opportunity for us to embrace technology in a way that'll be way more helpful and more distractive in the classroom. Like we don't always have to just use a whiteboard and that's all you see, or the book. Like let's go to this website, and I'm sure some people are doing it, but just make it more relevant to what the kids are learning today. How can we use this TikTok to do this, right? That's one opportunity. Another opportunity would be, and this is, it's about learning, but it's the environment in which we have our kids in that will prohibit them from learning what they need to learn. And that it all comes back to, nutrition, like as far as feeding our students. And again, all the students should be able to have access to a healthy breakfast and just healthy meals. And so what that does, it gives them energy, it gives them brain power, so they'll be able to sit and listen and learn. A lot of our schools don't have nutritious food that we're feeding our kids. I compared what our students eat in the cafeteria versus what they eat in Sweden. And it's like you're actually having a family meal in Sweden. Like you have vegetables and meat, and there's chefs that are cooking these foods for these kids. And so we don't have that. I wish we did, because it would allow the students to understand food better and how food would help them learn and how food is important in their growth and development, and why, there's an opportunity there. Again, we're in this stage where, we know how to grow food. We know the importance of food, and we know what food does for us mentally, physically, and emotionally. So there's an opportunity that we can use, maybe shorten the school day, but put more of an emphasis on the fact that they can sit down and eat a great meal. You will be amazed at how many of the changes, that would occur if students just had a great meal. We don't, it's carbs and processed food all day, every day. And they may not get, when they get home, they're probably eating the same types of food, depending on what area they're in or what their economic status is. But at least introduce them to that. These are vegetables and fruits and vegetables. And again, that goes back to money. You got to put more money in the school system for that to even occur. But that's an opportunity for us to improve the environment and help our children learn more. But I think the last opportunity would be, if we could take some of the things that we see that other schools are doing across the world and implement them into our classrooms, then we'll definitely have a better outcome when it comes to students wanting to continue in school, and students wanting to explore, wanting to go out the country. There are some kids who I was really big on geography when I was younger. I loved geography. That was almost my major. But they don't know where Asia is. They don't know where Belgium is. They and don't care about knowing. And so I think there's an opportunity again. That's the whole point of us learning about multiple cultures, to expose these students to something outside of the United States, in which they can strive to want to say, oh, I want to go there this day so I can see this, or I can experience this. And that will just make them a better human being, and then more open-minded when it comes to different cultures, different religions, different ways of life. That just, that'll just make them more open and, like I said, become a better global citizen.
Thank you so much. I am so delighted and appreciative of you being our guest today, and Dr. Niesha Douglas. It is definitely something that I'm sure our audience will take to heart. And I can tell you how much I appreciate your presence, and having the opportunity to know you and work with you is always a pleasure.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.